Hello, my name is Kevin and this is Wine Me Up episode 6. Wine me up! Welcome back to Wine Me Up episode 6, where we'll be talking about Chianti Classico and drinking and tasting Chianti Classico wine, of course. And I have literally just passed my test in the Chianti Classico area. You can do this through the Consorzio online and it's free to do. So I used about a month of time doing that. So I'm now a Chianti Classico expert. Ooh. So, Chianti Classico. First, Chianti is in Tuscany. Tuscany is pretty much divided into 3 different regions. You got the Chianti Hills with the Apennine Mountains up in the north. Then to the west you have the flatlands, we have Bulgari and all the super Tuscans, and then to the south you have Brunello di Montalcino. But up here in the northern area, up in the hills, you have the great Chianti Classico. Chianti as a region is quite large. There are 7 different subzones, DOCG Chianti, and then 7 different subzones, and then right in the middle is the heartland where it all started from, that is the Chianti Classico. The boundaries for the Chianti Classico were made in 1712, and its states are on the label of the bottle as well, so you can always be guaranteed you're getting a Chianti Classico by the Black Rooster. The Black Rooster, the Gallo Nero. This is the wine we'll be drinking this week. It's for Bibbiano. It's from a single vineyard, Vigna di Montornello, and it's a Gran Seleziano. Now, there are 3 tiers to Chianti. You've got the Chianti Classico, which they call Annata, which means vintage. That wine has to have 12 months of aging. Then you have the Chianti Classico Reserva, which is 24 months, and then the relatively new, the Gran Selezione, first vintage was 2013, is 30 months. Have to say though, despite what there has been written other places, you do not actually need any oak aging at all in Chianti Classico. You can have all 30 months in stainless steel if you wanted to. But that being said, Sangiovese, which is the main dominant grape in Chianti Classico, does get on really well with wood. All Chianti Classicos must have a minimum of 80% Sangiovese. The other 20% can be made up of 40 different grape varieties that can also be from French origin. Interestingly though, you're not allowed to use any Italian grapes other than the original recipe for Chianti Classico. Now, can't quite remember the date, but there was actually a recipe, if you like, for Chianti Classico, which involved Sangiovese always being the #1, and grapes Caniolo or Colorino, which are the 2 other Italian grapes, but they also had 2 white grapes that were allowed, Malvasia and Trebbiano. Now what this did is make for a bad wine, to say it as it was, an inferior wine. But luckily, those days are gone. In fact, over the years, the rules and regulations have been stiffened up a little bit to have more and more and more Sangiovese. And in 2006, it was actually against the law to put white grapes in, white wine grapes in the blend altogether. So now it's illegal to do that. You can still do it outside of the Chianti Classico, but not in Chianti Classico. And another thing, which was a major step for them, was you are now also allowed to have 100% Sangiovese, whereas before you actually had a maximum on it. But now you're allowed to have 100% Sangiovese. Now, if you remember the old days of Chianti, it was pretty rough stuff, to be honest with you. It came in like wicker baskets called fiasco, and to be honest, the wine was kind of a fiasco. And it was only on my trip to Tuscany 6-7 years ago, whenever it was, that because I was there riding around on my bike, I thought, well, I love wine obviously, but I don't drink Chianti, because I still had this idea that they were terrible wines. But every single wine I tried was a Chianti Classico, because when in Rome, you drink Chianti Classico. It was absolutely superb. I've since learned, of course, through my WSET courses, etc., that there's a good reason for this, and that is the Chianti Classico 2000 project. So yeah, the Chianti Classico project, the Project 2000. It started in 1985, and it started because they realised that quality was becoming to be a bit of an issue in the area, and people were buying their wines other places. Places like Chile and Argentina, for example, were making really good quality wines cheaper than they could. So they had to understand what was going on and why it was going badly. Thing is, Sangiovese, which is minimum 80% in the blend, so it's the most, the most important grape, it mutates quite a lot. Some grapes, I mean all grapes mutate, but some of them mutate more than others. Like Pinot Noir, for example, is another one. There's hundreds of different clones of Pinot Noir Sangiovese. Thing is though, some clones don't do as well in certain soils as other, and a certain altitudes as other. So this project was a 16-year experiment on trying the different clones in different areas, on different soils, at different heights, at different, tracking the temperature and the wind and everything like that, to be able to work out and actually create 7 new clones. So this has meant, by the year 2000, after all that 15-16 years trial and error, 80% of the Chianti Classico area has been replanted with the correct clone. So you can now, for example, if you've just started a vineyard, this is from Castellina, you can contact the consortium and say, I have a vineyard in Castellina. It is at 350 meters elevation. It's got a northwest facing exposure to the sun. It has got Albaresa soils, a little bit of sand, and they will say, okay, the best clone for you to use there then, with all those facts taken into consideration, is Sangiovese clone number 7, or whatever the different clones are called. So like I said, by that way, 80% of the whole area. And it also means it was replanted. So it also means that you cannot today get a bad Chianti Classico. It's just not possible. All Chianti Classicos are at least very good. If you like that type of wine, of course, I love it, but you won't get a bad one. So it is kind of, in my world, the actual Gallinero, this is just for Chianti Classico. There are, the subzones also make some good wines, it's not that. But you do get a 100% guarantee that they're at least very good, if not exceptional or excellent. Really, the quality is something else these days for Chianti Classico. So it's kind of like a guarantee. So some examples of the Chianti Classicos I have in wine cellar as well. Before I go on, actually, it's important to know that the Chianti Classico area is 72 hectares, and there's only actually 6 hectares of vines. The rest is actually woodland, olive trees, flowers, etc, etc. And that, all those extra woodland, gives a lot of oxygen to the vines. And that sort of contributes to that Tuscan bite that all Chianti Classicos have got. I really believe that, because they've all got that sort of bite to them. Another thing about the Chianti Classico area, which is a recent thing they've done, I believe it's 4 years ago, I should remember this from my exams to be honest, but they've actually made the communes into little zones called UGAs. Now there's 9 different communes in the Chianti Classico area, and out of those they've made 11 UGAs. So all these 6 here are from 6 different UGAs, that's why they're here. I haven't got the other ones, but the good thing about this zoning is, if you've watched my first video in Brunello, I mentioned the fact that in Brunello there's so much there's so many different types of wine, but they're all called Brunello. This problem they've got in Chianti as well, but Chianti have done something about it, and they've made 11 different UGAs. Now some of these UGAs are sort of higher up, with different soils. Galestro type soils, a very famous soil there. Places like Rada, where this comes from, is very high up. Gaiolo is high up as well. These areas, because of the extra height, you've got more acidity in the grapes, you've got a longer growing season in the grapes, they're more sort of linear type wines. Whereas if you prefer a wine that's got a little bit more plush, a little bit more body, a little bit more, I'm tempted to say Bordeaux-like in a way, then somewhere like Panzano, that's very warm there, and that gives you a really plush wine. Also to do with the soils they have there, and the clone they're using, of course. Fontoli, by the way, is one of the absolute top winemakers of the whole of Chianti Classico. But because of those different UGAs, they're all giving you something. There's one there called Lamoulet area, and that gives you always like a floral note that's really high up, so it gives you an extra floral thing. So if you're more into the kind of floral thing than the fruity thing, then that's the one you go for. So that's good. So just learning about the different UGAs and understanding which each UGA gives you. I mean, they're obviously not millions of miles apart from each other, but anyway, you kind of like go, oh, well, I actually like that type of wine, so in that case I should be going to Rada or to San Cassiano or wherever they are. So a little bit about the vineyard. This has been in the same family for 5 generations. At the moment there is 2 brothers that are running it now, and they make wines of only 100% Sangiovese, which is just my type of thing. I prefer, personally, my Sangiovese to go 100% or Caniolo or El Colorino mixed in them, so they're like more sort of Italian, rather than Merlot and Cabernet Sauvignon being blended. I mean, they're also good wines, of course, that's just my personal taste. But this one being 100% is really my type of things. This is the Gran Seleziano, so it leads 30 months of aging. It's actually fermented for 33 days in concrete. Then the maturation period is 24 months in both concrete and French barrels called tonneaux. Now tonneaux are not the biggest barrels, but a bit bigger than sort of barrique barrels that you commonly get in Bordeaux, for example. About 4 times the size of barrique. So they don't give you too much oak flavour, a little bit. It's more about the oxygen coming through the pores of the barrel to help soften the tannins and sort of temper the acidity a bit. Because Sangiovese is a very high tannin and high acidity wine, which is great, but it does need to temper it down a little bit, which is why waiting a few years before you pop one of these is a good idea. Then after that, 24 months, it then has the obligatory 6 months in bottle for everything to settle down a bit before it's released to sale. This is, this one, for the keen-eyed viewer, is 2019, but the one that I drunk yesterday is the 2016, so it's got a nice bit of age on it. Beautiful, beautiful wine, great vintage as well. So, my review of this wine. First of all, the colour was beautiful, pale ruby, slightly orange at the rim, and that's because a little bit of age in the wine, you get that. On the nose is lots of violets, flowers. I love it when you've got a flowery note on it. It's got red cherry, black cherry, had some red plum, had almonds on it, and like a burnt marzipan. I think that's from the oak, that almond and marzipan. It's got some red licorice, some white pepper, had herbs, oregano, timian, and a meatiness to it, and with like a sweet balsamic note. Beautiful, very complex. In the mouth, it's lush fruits because of the acidity. Red cherry, black cherry, red plum. It's got chalky, well integrated medium plus tannins with medium plus acidity, and it's a medium bodied wine. It's a lovely, lovely, well balanced wine with a long, slightly creamy finish, and it's 100% Sangiovese, just as I like it. So great review of that. It's 4.1 wine. Giving wine scores is all a little bit, but that's quite high. It's high for me because I'm a bit tight-skinned, so that's 4 and over. That's just really, really good wine, and it is a superb wine. Like I said, it costs 280 krona, and again, would I buy this wine again? Absolutely, definitely. Well, I have. It's here. I bought 3 of those in the last couple of years. It's a great wine. 2019 is a great vintage as well, so we can get hold of all of those. Brilliant. 2021 is also really good vintage of Chianti Classico, and if you take anything away from any of these videos, what I hope it is that, I don't know, maybe you think that 280 kroner is too much for a bottle of wine, I don't know, £28, £30 a bottle. I'm based in Denmark, as I said before, so it's Danish and English price. It's about £28, £30 a bottle. But if you take anything away from this, that is, please try Chianti Classico. Honestly, it is superb wines. It is really, really good with food. I had this last night with a nice big steak and a baked potato with lots of butter and salt, bit of broccoli, and it was absolutely perfect. Works really, really well with a steak. The more sort of tannins in the wine, the more sort of juicy a steak wants to be. So it works great with steak. Chianti Classico is perfect with the steak. Well, that's it for episode 6. Thank you very much for watching. See you again next week for episode 7, where we'll be in Barbaresco. Bye bye now.